Rain lashed against the city that never sleeps, turning Fifth Avenue into a slick black river. Ashley wrestled her overflowing recycling bin down the sidewalk, desperate to get home before the storm swallowed the city whole. 5-year-old Lily was waiting, her stomach rumbling louder than the thunder, back in their cramped walk-up in Queens. Rounding a corner near Central Park, a screech ripped through the night, followed by a sickening crunch of metal. Ashley's breath hitched. She abandoned her cart, wheels still spinning, and sprinted towards the chaos. At the intersection, a black town car, twisted like a pretzel, was slammed against a lamppost. The engine coughed and sputtered, but inside, silence, no movement. Adrenaline surged through Ashley. She yanked open the buckled door, ignoring the protesting groan of metal. The driver, a man in a tailored suit, slumped over the wheel, unconscious. The sharp tang of gasoline hung heavy in the air. Panic clawed at Ashley's throat. She wrestled with the jammed seatbelt, her fingers slipping on the wet leather. Finally, with a grunt of effort, it clicked open. "Sir, can you hear me?" she yelled, her voice cracking, shaking him roughly. Vincent's eyes flickered open, bleary and disoriented. He saw a face framed by the flickering streetlights, a face etched with concern, before darkness claimed him again. Ashley, ignoring the throbbing in her own muscles, hauled him out of the wreckage, dragging him towards the sidewalk. She'd barely pulled him clear when a deafening roar ripped through the night. Flames erupted from the mangled car, licking at the rain-soaked street. Ashley stumbled back, heart hammering against her ribs as the wail of sirens grew closer. Ambulances and police cars descended on the scene, their flashing lights painting the street in dizzying patterns. Paramedics swarmed Vincent, lifting him onto a stretcher. Ashley melted back into the shadows, unnoticed. Soaked to the bone, exhausted, her hands trembling, she vanished into the city night. Lily was waiting. She found her daughter asleep on the worn couch, clutching a faded teddy bear. Ashley's shoulders slumped with relief. She changed into dry clothes, then knelt beside Lily, stroking her soft hair. "Everything will be all right, Lily," she whispered, a promise to her daughter and to herself. Across the East River, in a sterile hospital room, Vincent drifted in and out of consciousness. A hazy memory clung to the edges of his mind. A face, a voice in the storm, a pair of hands pulling him from the brink. He needed to find her. Sunlight streamed through the hospital window, pulling Vincent back to the waking world. His head pounded, a brutal reminder of the night before. He tried to sit up, but his body protested with a chorus of aches. The door swung open. Leo, his assistant, rushed in, relief flooding his face. "Mr. Vincent, thank God! How are you feeling?" Vincent managed a weak wave. His voice was gravel, but he forced the words out. "Alive. Which is something." He managed a ghost of a smile. "What happened?" Leo recounted the crash, the mangled car, the woman who had appeared from nowhere and dragged him to safety just moments before the explosion. "She saved my life," Vincent said, his voice gaining strength. "Who is she?" Leo shook his head. Nobody got her name. She disappeared before the cops could even ask questions. Just a young woman, they said, humble, with a recycling cart, left it behind in all the chaos. Vincent frowned, a mix of gratitude and a burning curiosity swirling within him. He closed his eyes, trying to grasp the fleeting image of the face in the storm. Something about her eyes. It was etched in his memory. "Leo," he said, his voice firming, "I need to find her. I have to thank her. Personally. Use whatever resources you need." Leo hesitated. "Sir, do you think she wants to be found? Someone like that." Vincent cut him off. "Doesn't matter. She saved my life. That's a debt I can't ignore." As Vincent rested, Leo set the wheels in motion. It took less than a week to find the thread, to unravel the mystery of the woman with the recycling cart. Ashley Moore, hardworking, single mother, scrapping to support her daughter Lily. The details, stark and simple, moved Leo. But when he laid the file on Vincent's desk, he saw the real impact ripple across his boss's face. "She has a daughter," Vincent murmured, almost to himself. He looked up at Leo, his eyes alight with a new determination. "Leo, hire her, any position, whatever it takes. I want to help her, without her knowing it's because of me." Leo raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What if she says no? Someone like her might be suspicious of something like that, out of the blue. Vincent smiled, a hint of steel beneath the sincerity. "You're creative, Leo. Make it irresistible, but make absolutely sure she doesn't know I'm behind it." Across the city, Ashley started another day, same as the last. Make sure Lily had food on the table. Simple clothes, worn but clean, hair pulled back, she sorted the meager recyclables from yesterday's haul. Challenges were a constant companion, but her determination never wavered. After dropping Lily at the community daycare, a hand-painted sign proclaiming Little Sprouts, Ashley barely registered the well-dressed man approaching her until he was right in front of her. "Ashley Moore?" he asked, a practiced smile plastered on his face. "My name is Ronald. I'm from Human Resources at BravaCorp." "BravaCorp?" Ashley frowned, confused. "We're expanding our team," Ronald continued smoothly, "and your profile came up through one of our community outreach programs. We'd like to invite you for an interview." "Outreach program?" Ashley's confusion deepened. "I think you've got the wrong person. I haven't been part of anything like that." Ronald's smile tightened, but he didn't falter. "Perhaps an old record. Regardless, the position is yours if you're interested. Administrative tasks. Entry level. We provide full training. Benefits package. Health insurance, childcare support." Ashley's eyes widened. It sounded impossible. Too good to be true. Hesitation flickered across her face. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice small. "I've never worked in an office." Sensing her doubt, Ronald pressed his advantage. "Think about Lily's future, Ms. Moore. This could be everything." The words resonated deep within Ashley. She glanced towards the daycare playground, where Lily was chasing bubbles with the other children. A spark of hope ignited in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to take a chance. "All right," she said, her voice firmer now. "I'll accept, but only because it could help Lily." Ronald beamed, relief washing over his carefully constructed facade. "Excellent. You start next Monday. All the details will be sent to your address." Ashley walked home, a whirlwind of anxiety and a fragile hope swirling within her. A new job. A real job. She had no idea that this unexpected opportunity was woven directly to the threads of fate, connected to the man she'd pulled from the wreckage that rainy night. Back at the hospital, Vincent listened intently as Leo gave him updates. Hearing that Ashley had accepted the offer brought a genuine smile to his face, a warmth that reached his eyes. He wondered how her life would unfold, this new path he'd set her on. He silently vowed to make sure it was a path paved with opportunity, with hope. Leo, ever observant, noticed a shift in his boss, a depth to Vincent's gratitude that hinted at something more. Still, he remained professional. "So, sir, what's the next step?" Vincent looked out the window, the city skyline a jagged silhouette against the afternoon sky. Determination hardened his gaze. Let it progress naturally. She deserves a chance to grow, to succeed, without feeling like she's being watched. But I want regular updates, Leo. Everything, and keep it confidential. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a new chapter began for both Ashley and Vincent. Two lives, thrown together by chance, now irrevocably intertwined. A sunny Monday morning, Ashley nervously adjusted the simple dress she'd chosen for her first day. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Formal clothes felt alien, the prospect of an office world even more so, but a fierce determination burned within her. This was for Lily. This could be the start of something real. After dropping Lily off at daycare, Ashley clutched a small bag containing her meager documents and a notebook and headed towards BravaCorp's address. Standing before the towering skyscraper, she froze. Gleaming glass, dizzying height, a stream of impeccably dressed people flowing in and out. She felt utterly out of place. "You can do this, Ashley," she muttered under her breath, taking a deep breath and stepping inside. The revolving doors ushered her into a world of polished marble and hushed efficiency. The reception desk, a gleaming expanse of steel and glass, was manned by receptionists who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Swallowing her nervousness, Ashley approached. "Good morning," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "My name is Ashley Moore. I have a scheduled meeting." The receptionist, without a flicker of surprise, tapped a few keys. "Ah, yes, Miss Moore. Mr. Ronald is expecting you on the 5th floor, elevator to your right." Ashley mumbled a thank you and stepped into the elevator, watching the numbers climb on the illuminated panel. Each floor felt like a step further into an unknown, intimidating world. When the doors opened on the 5th floor, Ronald was waiting, his practiced smile firmly in place. "Ms. Moore, welcome to the team." He ushered her down a pristine corridor to a training room. There, she was introduced to a handful of other new hires, all wide-eyed and slightly overwhelmed. The initial instructions were simple: document organization, file scanning, basic administrative support for a small department. Despite her lack of experience, Ashley listened intently, asking questions whenever doubt clouded her understanding. She was determined to excel. Let's play a game for those who only read the comments. Type cupcake in the comments. Only those who get this far will understand. Now, let's continue with the story. While Ashley navigated the unfamiliar terrain of office life, Vincent watched from the shadows, an unseen benefactor. Leo kept him updated on Ashley's progress, relaying small details that brought a quiet satisfaction to Vincent. "She's doing well, sir. Dedicated, no doubt about it," Leo reported, handing Vincent a neatly typed summary. Vincent scanned the notes, a subtle smile playing on his lips. Knowing Ashley was finding her footing filled him with a quiet joy, but also a strange unease. He wanted to see her, to witness her transformation firsthand, but knew it was too soon, too risky. "Let her continue at this pace, Leo. I don't want to interfere," Vincent said, though his mind was already spinning with possibilities. In the following days, Ashley began to find a rhythm in her new routine. The work was repetitive, but she tackled it with unwavering diligence. More importantly, the paycheck was a lifeline. For the first time in years, Ashley didn't have to count every penny before grocery shopping, didn't have to choose between rent and food. One afternoon, while wrestling with a mountain of files, a coworker, Mary, perched on the edge of Ashley's desk. "Hey, Ashley, right? I'm Mary. New here?" she asked, a warm smile lighting her face. Ashley returned the smile, relieved by the friendly approach. "Yeah, just started. Still figuring things out." "Oh, don't worry, we all started somewhere. It gets easier, and if you need anything, seriously, just ask." Mary's genuine kindness eased Ashley's anxieties. She started to forge small connections with her coworkers, making the days less isolating, helping her feel like she belonged. Still, the knowledge that the company's enigmatic owner was unknowingly shaping her life remained hidden. Vincent, meanwhile, prepared to leave the hospital, weeks of slow recovery finally behind him. Using a cane for support, he walked through the sterile corridors, Leo a constant presence at his side. Improvement was evident, but the scars of the crash, both visible and unseen, remained. Finally, Vincent breathed, stepping out into the crisp city air, free from this place. He took a deep breath, the scent of exhaust and hot dogs a welcome change from antiseptic. Now, it's time to get back to work. Leo nodded, but couldn't miss the distant look in Vincent's eyes. He knew his boss was eager to see Ashley again, even if he wouldn't admit it. "Are you sure you're ready for this, sir?" Leo asked, helping him into the waiting town car. Vincent just smiled, a hint of his old confidence returning. "There's a lot of work to be done, Leo, and something tells me it's the right time." Back at the office, Ashley focused on her tasks, oblivious to the shift about to occur. After weeks of absence, the elevator in the main lobby doors slid open, and Vincent stepped out. Employees, startled by his unexpected appearance, murmured greetings as he made his way to his private elevator. Ashley, returning from a coffee break, rounded a corner just as he entered the lobby. Her breath hitched. She recognized him instantly, the man from the crash, impeccably dressed, but with a lingering trace of fatigue around his eyes. Her heart hammered against her ribs. It was him, here, in a place she never imagined he'd be. How was this possible? She stood frozen, watching him disappear into the elevator, the doors sliding shut, cutting him off from her view. For a moment, the polished marble floor seemed to sway beneath her feet. Questions flooded her mind, a torrent of confusion. All she knew was that the man she'd saved that night was somehow, inexplicably, part of this new world she'd stumbled into. Ashley spent the rest of the day in a daze, the image of Vincent imprinted on her mind. The man she'd dragged from the burning car, now here in command of everything around her. The coincidences were too stark to ignore, yet she hesitated to leap to conclusions. Why was he here? Could it really be him? And more importantly, did he recognize her? Shaking her head, Ashley tried to banish the swirling thoughts. There was work to do. Focus. Upstairs, in his penthouse office, Vincent couldn't shake the image of Ashley from his mind. The brief glimpse in the hallway had been a jolt, a surge of both surprise and profound relief. She was here, thriving, just as he'd hoped. Yet, a knot of unease tightened in his stomach. He knew he couldn't rush things. A delicate balance existed between gratitude and the potential fallout of revealing the truth. "Leo," he called, flipping through a report, his mind miles away. "Make sure she doesn't find out. Not yet." Leo hesitated, a familiar worry clouding his features. Of course, sir. But if I may ask, how long do you plan to keep this a secret? Vincent leaned back in his leather chair, a sigh escaping his lips. Not much longer. But she deserves to hear it at the right time, in a way that makes sense to her. Until then, I just want to watch. Make sure she has everything she needs. Leo nodded, though doubt still lingered in his eyes. He knew Vincent was walking a tightrope. One misstep could unravel everything. The next day, Ashley arrived at work, a resolve hardening her features. She needed answers. Pulling Mary aside, she feigned a casual air. "Hey, Mary, you know who the big boss is here?" Mary's eyes widened in surprise. "You don't know? It's Vincent Lira. He owns Brava Corp. Everything. They say he almost died in a car crash a few weeks ago. Returned to the office yesterday, I think. Why?" A chill ran down Ashley's spine. The confirmation slammed into her, erasing all doubt. It was him. But why hadn't she known? And how had she ended up working here, completely unaware of who was pulling the strings? "Oh, just curious," she stammered, forcing a laugh, masking the turmoil within. "Seems important," Mary snorted. "Important is an understatement. They say he's one of the wealthiest guys in the country, and super private. Almost nobody gets to speak to him directly." Ashley managed a polite smile, but her mind was racing. Back at her desk, she dove into the company's online archives, searching for answers. Company structure, recent projects, anything that might shed light on this strange coincidence. Flipping through digital pages, a document caught her eye, an internal memo about her hiring. The note was stark, unambiguous. Recruitment of Ashley Moore approved directly by the president. Ashley froze, her breath catching in her throat. Why? Why would the CEO of a massive corporation personally approve the hiring of someone like her, someone with no qualifications, no experience? Later that day, fate intervened again. Ashley crossed paths with Vincent in the hallway. He was leaving a meeting, a cluster of executives trailing behind him. Their eyes met. He paused, a flicker of something unreadable in his gaze, then simply nodded politely before continuing down the hall. Determination hardened Ashley's resolve. Answers. She needed answers now. At the end of the day, she sought out Leo, who always seemed to be hovering nearby, a silent guardian. Finding him near the elevators, Ashley approached directly. "Leo, I need to talk to you." He looked startled, then nodded, a hint of apprehension in his eyes. "Of course, Ashley. What's on your mind?" Ashley took a deep breath, the words rushing out. "Why was I hired at this company? Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful, but it doesn't make sense. I have no experience. This opportunity, it came out of nowhere." Leo hesitated, his silence confirming Ashley's deepest suspicions. He knew something. "Ashley, he began, then faltered, searching for the right words. "You were hired because your potential stood out." "My potential?" Ashley raised a skeptical eyebrow. "That's not an answer, Leo. Was it Vincent? Was it Vincent Lara who approved my hiring? Why?" Leo glanced around, ensuring they were alone. He knew he was defying Vincent's explicit instructions, but he couldn't lie to her, not anymore. "Yes," he admitted, his voice low. "It was him, but not for the reason you're thinking. Vincent. Vincent learned about your story after the accident." Ashley recoiled as if struck. He knew? He knew who I was all along? He knew I saved him? Leo nodded slowly. "He didn't want you to know. His intention was never to make you feel indebted. He just wanted to give back, somehow." Tears welled in Ashley's eyes, hot and unexpected, but she blinked them back, fighting for control. A maelstrom of emotions raged within her: surprise, anger, gratitude, and above all, a profound sense of confusion. Betrayal, or a bizarre act of kindness? She didn't know what to feel. "I need to talk to him," she declared, her voice suddenly steady. "I need to talk to Vincent." Leo hesitated again, his worry deepening. "I'm not sure if that's a good idea, Ashley." "Leo, please. I deserve an explanation." Reluctantly, he relented. "All right, I'll let him know you want to talk, but please, take it easy. He never meant any harm." Ashley nodded, but the turmoil in her mind wouldn't be easily calmed. All she knew was that she needed to confront Vincent Lara, to unravel the tangled threads of this strange, improbable connection. Ashley walked down the hushed corridor towards Vincent's office, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Each step echoed in the silence, amplifying her growing anxiety. Was this truly kindness, or some twisted form of control? Doubts gnawed at her. Did he really have good intentions? Or was this just another way for a man like Vincent to exert power, to play benefactor to someone he perceived as less? Before knocking, she paused, took a deep breath, and tried to organize the chaotic thoughts swirling in her head. Leo, who had accompanied her, laid a hand on her arm, a silent warning. Remember, Ashley, he didn't want to expose you to this. Be fair. Ashley just nodded, her jaw tight, and rapped sharply on the heavy oak door. Come in. Vincent's deep voice resonated from within. She pushed the door open slowly, and there he was. Vincent Lara, behind an impeccably organized desk, an expression of surprise and caution flickering across his face. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, locked on hers instantly, recognizing the storm brewing within her. Ashley, he said, rising from his chair, a hint of formality in his tone. To what do I owe this visit? She closed the door behind her, crossed her arms, and met his gaze directly. No small talk, no pleasantries, just the raw truth. Why am I here, Vincent? She asked, her voice firm, unwavering. He tilted his head, a flicker of intrigue in his eyes. What do you mean? You work here, don't you? You know what I'm talking about, she retorted, stepping closer, the polished floor cold beneath her feet. I know you approved my hiring. I know you knew who I was from the start. I want to know why. Vincent sighed, a hint of weariness in his expression. He leaned against the edge of his desk, crossing his arms, his gaze thoughtful. For a long moment, he seemed to weigh his words, searching for the right way to explain the inexplicable. Finally, he began to speak, his voice low, measured. You're right, Ashley. I knew who you were. After the accident, I asked Leo to find out who had saved me. When I learned it was you, a hardworking woman, a single mother, supporting her daughter by collecting recyclables, I felt indebted. You saved my life, Ashley. That's not something I could just ignore. So your solution was to hire me? She asked, the question laced with skepticism. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Because I didn't want you to think it was charity, he replied, his sincerity palpable. I didn't want you to feel embarrassed or inferior. I wanted you to have a real chance, Ashley, to change your life, but on your own merits. Ashley fell silent, processing his words, turning them over and over in her mind. A part of her wanted to believe him, to accept his explanation at face value. But another part, hardened by years of struggle and disappointment, still felt deeply uneasy. Everything had been orchestrated, planned, without her knowledge, without her consent. I'm not a charity case, Vincent, she said, her voice tight with emotion. I've fought my whole life to get everything I have. I didn't need someone rich deciding to save me. Vincent stepped forward, closing the distance between them, his gaze intensifying. I never wanted to treat you that way, Ashley. That's not what I saw in you that night. I saw someone strong, someone who risked her own life to save a stranger. That's not common. And to be honest, Ashley, he paused, his voice softening, I think I'm the one who should be thankful. His words caught her off guard, disarming her carefully constructed defenses. The raw sincerity in his voice was almost tangible, and for the first time it chipped away at her skepticism. She looked away, breaking eye contact, fighting to regain control of the emotions threatening to overwhelm her. I don't know what to think about all this, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Vincent approached, now just a few feet away, his presence filling the space between them. Then, give me a chance, Ashley. Give me a chance to prove my intentions are good. I'm not trying to change who you are. I just want you to see that you deserve all the good that's happening. Ashley took a deep breath, still reeling, still confused, but something within her began to soften, to thaw. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe his intentions, however misguided, were genuinely good. Maybe, just maybe, she could afford to listen. I need time, she said, finally, her voice regaining strength. I need time to process all this. Vincent nodded, understanding etched on his face. Of course. Take all the time you need, Ashley. But please, know that I never meant to hurt you. She turned and walked towards the door, leaving Vincent alone in his office, the silence echoing around him. He knew he'd taken a huge risk, laid bare his vulnerability, but he also believed it was necessary. There was something about Ashley, something in her quiet strength, that resonated deep within him, that made him want to be a better man, and he didn't want to lose the chance to prove it. In the days that followed, Ashley began to see Vincent through a different lens. He wasn't the cold, distant CEO she'd initially imagined. During meetings, chance encounters in the hallway, she observed how he interacted with others. Respectful, attentive, without a trace of arrogance. This subtle shift in perception chipped away at her initial skepticism. One day, as she was sorting files at her desk, Vincent stopped by, a more relaxed, casual air about him. "Ashley, could I speak with you for a moment?" he asked, his tone softening. She hesitated, then nodded, a flicker of curiosity replacing her usual guardedness. "Of course." They walked to an empty conference room, the silence closing in around them as Vincent shut the door. "I know I asked you for time," he began, turning to face her, his gaze earnest. "But there's something I want to show you, something that might help you understand why I feel this way." Vincent reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He held it out to Ashley, a question in his eyes. Confused, she opened it. Inside, nestled on the velvet lining, lay a simple, worn medal. Engraved on its surface were two words: courage and sacrifice. "What is this?" she asked, looking up at him, her brow furrowed in confusion. "It belonged to my father," Vincent explained, his voice suddenly thick with emotion. "He was a firefighter, spent his life saving people, died in a rescue when I was a kid." He paused, his gaze distant, lost in memory. "In some ways, I think I've always looked for that kind of courage in the people around me. When you showed up that night, risked your life for me, it reminded me of him. That's why I feel so connected to you, Ashley." Ashley fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. A wave of unexpected empathy washed over her. For the first time, she saw Vincent not as a powerful CEO, but as a man, carrying his own burdens, his own invisible scars. The metal in her hand felt heavier than its weight, imbued with the echoes of loss and heroism. I didn't know," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "Because," he replied, a sad smile playing on his lips, "I've never told anyone." He paused, then added softly, "But I thought you deserved to know." The moment was shattered by the insistent ringing of Vincent's phone. He apologized, a flicker of regret crossing his face, and stepped out of the room to answer it, leaving Ashley alone. She looked down at the worn metal in her palm, turning it over and over in her fingers. An unexpected connection, a shared language of sacrifice. Maybe, she thought, just maybe, Vincent Lara wasn't just a wealthy man trying to assuage his guilt. Maybe he was someone who genuinely understood, on a deeper level, what it meant to risk everything for another. Ashley returned to her desk, the medal still clutched in her hand, Vincent's gesture echoing in her mind. In her entire life, no one had ever truly seen her, truly recognized her quiet battles, her unwavering strength. Beyond Lily, beyond the daily grind, here was Vincent, not only acknowledging what she'd done, but revealing a vulnerable part of himself, a part that resonated deep within her own heart. As she sorted through documents, her thoughts drifted to Lily, her daughter's bright smile, her infectious laughter, her unwavering belief in her mother. That was her anchor. That was why Ashley woke up every morning, faced the relentless challenges, and kept pushing forward. Perhaps this new chapter, this unexpected turn at BravoCorp was more than just a job. Perhaps it was a chance for Lily, a chance for herself, a chance at a future she'd never dared to imagine. Days blurred into weeks, and Ashley found herself settling into her new life, a cautious peace blooming within her. Her conversation with Vincent had been a turning point. He seemed genuine, and though a thread of unease still lingered, a new emotion was beginning to unfurl: curiosity. Who was Vincent Lara, beyond the wealth, beyond the power? Why did he seem to care so deeply, so personally about her and Lily? That curiosity grew as Vincent's presence became more frequent in her workday. He'd stop by her desk, his smile warm, his questions thoughtful. Though he maintained a professional distance in front of others, their exchanged glances, their brief encounters felt charged with unspoken meaning. One particularly hectic afternoon, he surprised her by appearing at her desk, a cup of coffee in his hand. "Ashley, how are you settling in?" he asked, leaning closer, his voice low, intimate. She looked up, caught off guard, but answered honestly. I think I'm doing okay. Still feel a little out of my depth sometimes, but I'm learning." Vincent nodded, pleased. "You're doing excellent work, Ashley. Truly. And if you need anything at all, my door is always open." Ashley managed a shy smile, a flicker of warmth spreading through her. As he walked away, she realized something had shifted in her perception. His presence, once intimidating, now felt lighter, less daunting. Over the weekend, Ashley took Lily to Central Park, a rare moment of pure, unadulterated free time. Lily, a whirlwind of energy, raced across the grassy expanse, her laughter echoing through the trees. Watching her daughter, a familiar peace settled over Ashley. Then, a figure emerged from the crowd, coffee cup in hand. Vincent. He looked different, less formal, without his usual power suit, more relaxed. When he saw her, his face lit up, a genuine smile breaking through. He approached, his gaze warm. Ashley, what a coincidence seeing you here. He gestured towards Lily, who was now sprinting towards them, arms outstretched. And this must be the famous Lily. Lily skidded to a halt beside her mother, eyeing Vincent with a mixture of curiosity and shyness. Ashley smiled, a blush rising to her cheeks, and introduced them. Lily, this is Mr. Vincent. He's my boss. Vincent knelt, bringing himself to Lily's level, extending a hand in greeting. Hello, Lily. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Lily shook his hand, her small fingers disappearing into his. Her eyes, bright and inquisitive, sparkled. Do you like ice cream? She asked, her question direct and unexpected. Vincent laughed, charmed. I love ice cream. Do you? Lily nodded emphatically. My mommy promises to buy me some when I'm good. Ashley chuckled nervously, a little embarrassed, but Vincent seemed genuinely delighted. He stood, turning to Ashley, a question in his eyes. May I join you? I think a walk would do me good. Ashley hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, then nodded. All right. The three of them spent the next hour strolling through the park, the conversation light, easy. Lily's endless chatter and infectious laughter filled the air. For Ashley, it was a strange, almost surreal moment. She was seeing Vincent outside the office, stripped of his CEO persona. He was normal, human. The following week, Vincent found reasons to talk to Ashley more often, weaving himself into the fabric of her workday. He invited her to join a small, high-profile internal project, ensuring they would spend more time working closely together. Though cautious, Ashley accepted, recognizing the opportunity for professional growth. During project meetings, Vincent treated her as an equal, valuing her input, listening intently to her ideas. She began to realize he wasn't just offering charity, he genuinely believed in her abilities. Her confidence slowly, steadily began to blossom. One day, while reviewing a progress report together, Vincent made a comment that resonated deeply with Ashley. You know, Ashley, he said, his gaze thoughtful, sometimes I think about what would have happened if you hadn't been there at that corner that night. It's strange to think how one decision of yours completely changed my life. Ashley paused, meeting his gaze, a hint of awkwardness in her voice. I guess fate has a funny way of connecting people, doesn't it? Vincent smiled, a warmth in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. Yes, he said softly. Yes, it does. And honestly, Ashley, I'm grateful for it. Ashley looked away, a blush creeping up her neck. There was something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, that made her feel unsettled. She'd never experienced this kind of attention before, especially from someone like Vincent. What Ashley didn't know was that Vincent, too, was grappling with a growing unease, a shift in his own feelings. Initially, his intentions had been clear: repay a debt, offer a helping hand. But over time, something had shifted. He found himself drawn to Ashley's quiet strength, her unwavering determination, her fierce love for Lily. He knew he was treading a delicate line, crossing the boundary between gratitude and something more. But he couldn't help it. One night, wrestling with his conflicting emotions, Vincent confided in Leo. I can't ignore this, Leo. Ashley, she's different, unlike anyone I've ever met. Leo, ever the cautious advisor, looked at him with concern. Just be careful, sir. Feelings, they can complicate things. Vincent sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know, Leo, I know, but it's too late to turn back. The next morning, Vincent found himself outside Lily's daycare, a place he'd never imagined himself visiting. He'd gone there deliberately, wanting to understand Ashley's world, to see her life through her eyes. As Lily spotted him, her face lit up, a bright, innocent smile. Mr. Vincent, she called, running towards him. My mommy says you're nice. Vincent laughed, kneeling down to meet her gaze. Your mommy is an amazing woman, Lily. You're very lucky to have her. Lily beamed, clutching her teddy bear tighter. She always tells me I'm the most important thing in her life. A lump formed in Vincent's throat. Suddenly, he understood. He understood the source of Ashley's strength, her unwavering focus. She didn't live just for herself. Everything she did, every sacrifice she made, was for Lily. And that, more than anything, solidified his admiration, deepening his unexpected connection to them both. As the weeks turned into months, Ashley couldn't deny the growing pull between herself and Vincent. His presence, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a comforting warmth in her life. Whether at work or increasingly outside of it, he seemed to find ways to be near her, to be present. The initial discomfort had slowly, almost imperceptibly, morphed into something far more complex. Tropes. She admired his kindness, his unwavering support, the way he seemed to instinctively understand her struggles. But a persistent fear still lingered, a fear that this fragile closeness might shatter, leaving her more vulnerable than ever. One morning, while sorting through invoices, Mary approached, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. "You know, Ashley," she said, her voice lowered conspiratorially, "people are starting to talk." Ashley froze, a knot of apprehension tightening in her stomach. "Talk? About what?" "You and the boss," Mary elaborated, her smile widening. "This special attention Vincent's been giving you doesn't exactly scream professional." Ashley's breath hitched. She knew Vincent hadn't done anything inappropriate, but Mary's words, casual yet pointed, stirred a deep-seated insecurity. What others thought, it had always been a silent, ever-present weight on her shoulders. "Rumors," Mary continued, shrugging, "they spread. Some people think you're taking advantage of the situation. After all, he's never shown this much interest in anyone before." A wave of nausea washed over Ashley. She knew it was ridiculous, that she hadn't done anything wrong. But Mary's words had pierced her carefully constructed defenses, exposing a raw nerve of vulnerability. At the end of the day, Ashley made a decision: avoidance. Instead of taking the elevator, she slipped into the stairwell, the echoing silence a stark contrast to the bustling office. Reaching the ground floor, she nearly collided with Leo, who seemed to be waiting for her, a worried expression on his face. "Ashley," he said, his voice low, "Vincent asked me to call you. He wants to talk about the project." She hesitated, a knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. "Talk about the project or something else?" Tell him I'll talk to him on Monday. I'm late to pick up Lily." Leo frowned, his concern deepening but didn't press. He could sense something was wrong, something beyond project deadlines. That evening, back in their small apartment, Ashley prepared a simple dinner, her mind miles away. Lily, oblivious to the storm brewing within her mother, sat at the kitchen table, crayons scattered around her, drawing furiously. On a sheet of paper, Lily scribbled a picture, childish and bright, that made Ashley's breath catch in her throat. 3 figures, stick-like and smiling, holding hands. "Who's this, Lily?" Ashley asked, pointing to the 3rd figure positioned beside them. Lily beamed, her smile innocent and guileless. "It's Mr. Vincent. He always smiles at us, and I think he likes you, Mommy." Ashley froze, staring at the crayon drawing, the simplicity of Lily's words hitting her with unexpected force. How could she explain to her daughter that Vincent was just her boss, when even a 5-year-old seemed to sense something more? The next morning, a Sunday, Ashley knew she couldn't run from it any longer. She needed to confront the rumors, to address the growing, undeniable connection between herself and Vincent, before things spiraled out of control. She arrived at the office early, the vast, empty space echoing her own internal turmoil. Her footsteps echoed down the silent corridor to Vincent's office. She knocked, her knuckles rapping softly against the heavy oak door. "Come in." Vincent's voice, deeper than usual, resonated from within. Vincent looked surprised to see her there so early, his brow furrowed in question. But as she stepped further into the room, his expression softened, concern replacing surprise. "Ashley? This is a surprise. How can I help you?" Ashley sat down in the chair opposite his desk, her posture stiff, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I need to talk about something important." Vincent leaned forward, his gaze intent, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. "Of course, Ashley. Go ahead." She took a deep breath, the words tumbling out, raw and unfiltered. "People are talking, Vincent, about us, about the attention you've been giving me. They're implying that I'm only here because of your protection." Vincent fell silent, his expression hardening, processing the weight of her words. Finally he spoke, his voice low and firm. "Ashley, who is saying this? Who?" It doesn't matter who, she cut him off, her voice rising slightly, laced with frustration. The point is, if these things are being said, it means something's wrong. And to be honest, she continued, her voice trembling, I'm starting to think that maybe I let things get out of hand. Vincent shook his head, visibly upset, his gaze fixed on hers. Ashley, that's ridiculous. The fact that I value your work, that I respect you, that shouldn't be a reason for gossip. These people are wrong, and I won't tolerate this kind of behavior in my company. But it is happening, Vincent, she countered, her voice more forceful now, her gaze unwavering. And I need to think about what's best for me, and for Lily. Vincent leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk, his eyes locking onto hers. Ashley, if you're suggesting you should distance yourself because of what others are saying, I need to ask you to reconsider. You earned your place here. What others say, it doesn't matter. Ashley looked away, her gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the window, battling the storm of emotions raging within her. There was something in his voice, in the intensity of his gaze that tugged at her, that made her want to believe him. But years of hard-earned pragmatism, of cautious self-preservation, held her back. The world wasn't always fair. Rumors, whispers, they could fester, they could poison everything. I don't want my presence here to harm you, Vincent, or affect my life outside of work. Vincent leaned back in his chair, a deep sigh escaping his lips. I understand, he said, his voice softening, a hint of resignation in his tone. But Ashley, I want you to know that you have my support, always. I'll deal with these rumors. I'll make sure nothing affects your position here. She nodded, a fragile truce in the air, but uncertainty still clung to her, a shadow in her eyes. Over the following days, Vincent took decisive action to quell the office gossip. He called Mary and several other employees into his office, individually, making it unequivocally clear that such behavior would not be tolerated within BravoCorp. But despite Vincent's efforts, the weight of Mary's words, the subtle glances, the hushed whispers, still lingered in the air, a constant, uncomfortable presence for Ashley. Deep down, she knew the issue wasn't just about office gossip. It was something deeper, something more personal, more profound. It was the invisible barrier she'd erected around her heart, the wall built brick by brick from past hurts, past disappointments. It was her own carefully guarded secret, the vulnerability she'd buried deep within herself. That night, while tucking Lily into bed, Ashley's thoughts drifted back to Vincent, to the complex web of emotions that had ensnared them both. He always seemed to be on her side, fighting for her, for Lily. But was that truly what she wanted? Could she risk letting him in, truly in, when the scars of her past still ached with a dull, persistent throb? He had become an important figure in their lives, undeniable, but the fear of the unknown, the fear of repeating old patterns, still held her captive. Vincent, too, was restless, a knot of frustration tightening in his gut. He knew the rumors had shaken Ashley, rattled her carefully constructed world. He couldn't fathom how something as genuine as his admiration, his respect, could be twisted, distorted into something so ugly, so malicious. Was he pushing too hard? Was his desire to help, to protect, inadvertently creating more turmoil for her? The days crawled by, heavy with unspoken tension. Though Vincent had tried to silence the gossip, Ashley still felt the weight of it, the subtle shifts in office dynamics, the unspoken judgments in the air. But beneath the surface unease, another undercurrent began to flow, a quiet, persistent hum of connection. One evening, while finishing the dishes, Ashley paused, gazing at Lily, asleep on the couch, a picture of peaceful innocence. Her daughter, her everything, but also, in a way, her cage. Lily was the reason for her cautious choices, her guarded heart, her unwavering resistance to letting anyone get too close. Ashley knew she couldn't ignore the undeniable signs, Vincent's subtle yet persistent pursuit, the unspoken desires that shimmered between them. But there was a part of her story, a crucial piece of her past that she'd never shared, not with Vincent, not with anyone, a secret that could shatter everything. That night, restless and troubled, Ashley made a decision. She needed to escape the suffocating tension of the office, to find clarity away from the prying eyes and judging whispers. She called in sick, claiming a sudden illness, and the next morning bundled Lily into the car, driving to a place that held a bittersweet resonance, a small park on the edge of the city, a place she'd frequented in the lean years before BravoCorp, before Vincent. It was a place of hard choices, of quiet resilience, of solitary strength. While Lily chased pigeons across the paved paths, Ashley sat on a worn wooden bench, lost in thought, the ghosts of her past swirling around her. Vincent, back at the office, felt Ashley's absence like a physical void. He'd grown accustomed to her quiet presence, to the subtle energy she brought to the office, even in her most guarded moments. Now, the silence felt heavy, oppressive. Something was wrong. He knew it instinctively. He tried to focus on his demanding schedule, on the endless stream of meetings, but a persistent unease gnawed at him. Finally, his carefully constructed composure cracked. He buzzed Leo on the intercom, his voice clipped, urgent. "Leo, find out where Ashley is, now. I want to make sure she's okay." Leo, accustomed to Vincent's decisive nature, didn't question the order. A few hours later, Leo had his answer. "She's at Greenhaven Park, sir, with Lily." Without a word, without a second thought, Vincent left the office, his town car speeding towards the park, cutting through the midday traffic. He arrived, parked hastily, and scanned the park, his gaze searching, anxious. Then he saw her, Ashley, sitting alone on a bench, her posture slumped, her gaze distant, watching Lily play. For a moment, he hesitated, a flicker of doubt. Was he intruding? Was he crossing a line? But the worry gnawing at him overrode all hesitation. He approached cautiously, his footsteps soft on the paved path, trying not to startle her, his heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and a strange, desperate hope. Ashley sensed his presence before she even saw him. She turned, her face etched with surprise, but also a weary exhaustion that pierced Vincent to the core. "Vincent," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "What are you doing here?" She tried to mask the tremor in her voice, but he heard it, felt it resonate within him. "I was worried," he admitted, his voice low, sincere. "You didn't show up at work, and, well, I wanted to make sure you were okay." Ashley sighed, her gaze drifting away, fixed on Lily, who was now swinging high on a swing set, her laughter carried on the breeze. I needed some time. There's a lot going on, and I wanted to clear my head." Vincent sat down beside her on the worn bench, leaving a respectful space between them. But his gaze remained fixed on her, his concern deepening. "Ashley, if there's anything I can do, anything at all to help, you know I'm here." A bitter laugh escaped her lips, devoid of humor. "That's what scares me, Vincent. You're always there, wanting to help, trying to fix everything. But life isn't always that simple." He frowned, puzzled, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean by that?" Ashley fell silent for a long moment, her gaze still fixed on Lily, as if drawing strength from her daughter's innocent joy. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper, yet each word heavy with unspoken pain. "There are things about me, Vincent. Things you don't know, things I've kept buried for years, because it's just easier that way." Vincent leaned in slightly, his voice softening, laced with a deep, unwavering empathy. "Ashley, whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. I want to understand." She turned to him then, her eyes meeting his, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her carefully constructed defenses. Finally, after years of silence, of solitary battles, she took a deep breath and began to speak, the words pouring out, a dam finally breaking, releasing a torrent of long-suppressed pain. "Lily's father," she began, her voice trembling. He wasn't the man I thought he was. When I told him I was pregnant, he just disappeared, said he didn't want a family, said it would ruin his life." Her voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes, but she pressed on, driven by a need to finally unburden herself, to finally be seen, truly seen by someone who might actually understand. So I had to move forward alone. Pregnant, scared, no job, no support. I had nothing, Vincent, no choice. I started collecting recyclables, just to afford a tiny apartment, to put food on the table for Lily. It wasn't easy, Vincent. Every day was a fight, but I built a life for her, a life for us. Vincent's chest tightened, a wave of empathy washing over him, a profound understanding of the battles she'd fought, the sacrifices she'd made. He could see the years of hardship etched in the lines around her eyes, the quiet strength that radiated from her, a strength forged in the fires of adversity. Now he understood. He understood the guardedness, the hesitation, the deep-seated fear of vulnerability. He understood why she'd built walls so high, so impenetrable. Ashley, he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. For you, for both of you. He paused, then reached out, his hand gently covering hers, his touch warm and reassuring. But if I can say one thing, I think you did the right thing, Ashley. You did more than the right thing. You gave Lily a home, you gave her love, and that's worth more than anything in the world. Ashley felt the tears spill over, hot and unchecked, finally giving way to the emotions she'd held bottled up for so long. She didn't want to appear weak, vulnerable, even to Vincent, but in this moment, in the quiet of the park, under the watchful gaze of the city, she couldn't hold back any longer. That's why I can't afford to make mistakes, Vincent, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Everything I do, it's for her. I can't risk something or someone disrupting our lives. Vincent nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. I get it, Ashley. I truly do. But, Ashley, I want you to know, I'm not here to disrupt anything. I'm here because I admire you, because I believe in you, and because I think you and Lily are much more special than you realize. Ashley looked away, her heart pounding against her ribs, his words resonating with a power that both terrified and exhilarated her. It was hard to hear, almost too much to bear, but something in his voice, something in the unwavering intensity of his gaze made them feel true. Lily, sensing the shift in mood, ran over to them, a dandelion clutched tightly in her small hand. "Look, Mommy," she exclaimed, holding out the wilting flower. "This is for you." Ashley managed a watery smile, taking the flower, her heart aching with a complex mix of emotions. "Thank you, my love," she murmured, kissing Lily's soft hair. Lily then turned to Vincent, her brow furrowed, her question direct and innocent. "You like my mommy, don't you, Mr. Vincent?" Ashley's eyes widened, a blush flooding her cheeks, caught completely off guard by her daughter's bluntness. Vincent laughed, a warm, genuine sound, and knelt down to Lily's level, his gaze meeting hers. "I like your mommy a lot, Lily," he said softly, his voice filled with affection. "She's an amazing person." Ashley looked away, unable to meet Vincent's gaze, her heart racing, a whirlwind of emotion swirling within her. She was exposed, vulnerable, laid bare in a way she hadn't been in years. But strangely, terrifyingly, it didn't feel entirely unwelcome. Before she could formulate a response, before she could process the weight of Lily's question, Lily grabbed her hand, her small fingers tugging insistently. "Come on, Mommy," she exclaimed, pulling her towards the playground, her childish energy infectious. "Let's play." Vincent watched them go, Ashley's figure receding into the distance, Lily's laughter echoing in the air. A strange sense of peace settled over him, a quiet resolve hardening his gaze. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Ashley's wounds ran deep, her walls were high. But he was ready. He was ready to fight for a place in their lives, to patiently chip away at her defenses, to prove day by day that he was worthy of her trust, worthy of her love. He was ready to wait. He was ready to love.